Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. So first of all, you guys seem to really enjoy last week's video that my husband Den did with the bamboo. A lot of the comments were just asking for more of those sorts of videos. We are not doing them every single week though. We are aiming currently to do them every other week. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know there will be more of those, definitely. This week's video is a topic, like usual, that I get a lot of questions about. This is probably the #1 most asked question that I get, and that is, why is my bearded dragon not eating? Now, I did a video sort of like this about 2 years ago called Why is my reptile not eating? But it was just kind of a general thing. So for this video, we are going to focus on bearded dragons, and in the future, we'll do one on crested geckos and ball pythons and leopard geckos and all of those things. Let's get into it. First of all, the biggest reason and the reason that I always ask questions about is going to be the temperature. If the temperatures in your tank are not correct, your bearded dragon is not going to eat. It is very, very, very important that your basking spot is being measured with a temperature gun. Like I've mentioned in the last few videos, the temperature reading on a wall thermometer can be 20 degrees less than the actual basking spot itself. If your temperatures are too hot, your bearded dragon is not going to bask and they're not going to eat. If that basking spot is too cold, your bearded dragon isn't going to be able to digest their food properly and they're not going to eat. For a baby, you want that basking spot temperature to be about 100 to 110 degrees, and it's going to be considerably less for an adult at between 95 and 105 degrees. And other ways that you can tell that this might be an issue other than just not having a temperature gun is they may have stress lines, they may have black beards, they may be staying on that basking spot 24/7 or trying to get closer to the light, or they may be running away from that basking spot, staying on their cold side and not wanting to bask at all. So definitely look for those things and definitely adjust those temperatures if needed, and buy a temperature gun, please. As always, everything that I talk about is linked down below. If you need a temperature gun, Amazon has them for $20-something, a lot cheaper than in stores, so all that will be linked below. Next up, on the same subject of lights, we are going to talk about the UV light. Bearded dragons have to have UVB light to digest their food properly. If you're using a little coil bulb, or your bulb is over 6 months old, or you are using a Wish brand UV bulb and your animal's not eating, please check that and fix it as soon as possible. Not having that proper UVB lighting is not only going to cause them not to eat, but it will eventually cause them to get metabolic bone disease. I did a whole video a couple weeks back all about lighting and proper lighting, so I will leave that here if you need it. Yeah, make sure you have the proper lights. Next up is if you have a new Beardie. New bearded dragons might not eat for a couple of days. They have just made a huge move. They were probably traveling in your car or in a shipping box. Everything around them is new, and that is very stressful. Other than you just getting them, things to look for with this is stress lines, black beard. They may be super agitated or super flighty. They may do the submission wave as you walk by or as you put your hand in the tank. All those are things that are telling you that they are not comfortable and that they are stressed out, and that could be why they are not eating. If that is the case, just give it a few days and they should start eating soon. It's normal. Or you could even give them something that you know bearded dragons love, like waxworms or hornworms, just to kind of spike that appetite for them. It's normal, and I know it's hard not to worry when you just now brought that animal home, but it is normal. And kind of on that same subject, let's just talk about stress in general. Now, stress is caused by so many different things, but more commonly things that people don't really think about. Your bearded dragon might not be eating because they are stressed out from you moving the tank. Maybe if you move the tank to a different room or a different area of the room, maybe they can see a window or light is getting to them that was not getting to them before. That is something that happened to Zaz, and she got very stressed out about it. If you have completely redone their tank, that can be stressful. Now, switching enrichment in and out of a tank is very good for them. It allows them to use their brain to figure out what is happening and what's new and explore it. But if you've switched out everything all at once, it could trigger them to get stressed out and not want to eat for a little bit. Another thing that may be super stressful for that bearded dragon is if you have other animals like dogs that are barking near the tank, or a cat that's trying to get into the tank, or kids tapping on the glass or getting into the tank. Anything like that could be stressful for these animals. So just make sure that you are aware of the environment that they are in. Other things to look out for this is those stress lines. Again, stress lines are amazing indicators that something is wrong with your bearded dragon. Black beard, them flaring up their beard and puffing up at maybe another pet or a child or anything like that. Glass surfing. When Zaz was stressed out about us moving her tank, she would glass surf non-stop. The ways that you can fix that are by covering up the tank. With Zaz, we just took a big sheet and just covered up the entire front of the tank all day until she calmed down. The other thing that you can do is just wait. Parasites. So as I mention all the time, bearded dragons are very prone to getting parasites. I highly suggest that if you have just brought your bearded dragon home, unless they are coming from a reputable breeder that has already tested them for parasites, take a fecal sample into a vet and get them tested for parasites. Not only is this going to help you fix a problem before it becomes a bigger problem if they do have parasites, if they don't, it's going to take so much stress off of you, because you bringing that animal home and knowing that they're not eating because they're stressed instead of panicking about are they not eating because they have parasites is going to take so much of that stress off. But other things to look for with parasites is going to be them being super sleepy, sleeping all day, stress lines, black beard, if they have really bad smelling poops or super runny poops. And another huge one is weight loss. Another item that I suggest you have if you keep bearded dragons is a scale. This is another thing that's going to help take a lot of that stress off, because bearded dragons are built not to eat every day if they don't have food available. If they don't eat for those few days after you bring them home and you put them on a scale and they have lost a considerable amount of weight, then that is a concern and it could mean parasites. Whereas if you put them on the scale and they weigh the same that they did 4 days ago, then you know that most likely they're okay, they're just stressed out. But if your bearded dragon just looks really skinny, if they don't have fat pads around their legs, if they don't have the fat pads above their head, if it's sunken in, if the area around the base of their tail is sunken in, or if you can see hip bones, all of those are definitely a means of concern. And if you see any of those things, you need to get them to a vet immediately. And the only cure for this one is going to be medication. You can't just sit around and wait for the parasites to go away. They do have to be treated. Next up is other sicknesses. This can be things like mouth rot. Maybe they have a cut in their mouth. I did a whole video a little while back about common illnesses that bearded dragons get, so I'll also leave that here just in case you need it. Not eating is going to be a symptom of most illnesses that bearded dragons get. So if you notice any other symptoms, make sure that you are researching, seeing what it could be, and if it is a concern, like seeing yellow spots on your bearded dragon's abdomen, make sure that you are taking them to the vet. Impaction and constipation. So sometimes if your bearded dragon hasn't pooped in a really long time, they don't want to eat. This one is super easy to check for. When was the last time your bearded dragon pooped? Now, babies are going to go a lot more often than adults. Adults, sometimes it's normal for them to go once a week. It all kind of depends on the dragon. There are a lot of causes of constipation. Sometimes it just happens. It could happen if your temperatures were too low and your bearded dragon couldn't digest their food properly, or if you were not using the proper UV lighting. It also could come from them not getting enough water in their diet. So if they weren't eating their salads, or if they were being fed like freeze-dried bugs, consuming loose substrate, consuming too much chitin. So basically, if you're feeding a lot of mealworms, especially to babies, because that is very hard for them to digest, alleviating this is going to be very important before it becomes something serious like impaction. If your bearded dragon has not gone to the bathroom in a while, there are a few different things that you can do to help them. Number one is going to be just give them a warm bath. What I like to do with Zaz when I put her in the bath is to gently massage her belly, and that's just going to kind of help get things moving along with the warm water. Other ways to get more hydration into their body is going to be dripping water onto their snout. You can also try to feed something like hornworms. A lot of times, even if they don't want to eat anything else, bearded dragons love hornworms, and hornworms have an incredibly high water content. And if none of that has worked and it has been a considerable amount of time since your bearded dragon has gone to the bathroom, you can do something that I like to call a laxative smoothie. You can use a pumpkin puree or an applesauce puree puree, make sure it's like unsweetened applesauce, only apples. And then you can mix in a couple of drops of olive oil. You want to make sure that it's olive oil. Don't use any other kinds of oil, just olive oil. And you only want to put in a few drops and not a lot at all. And some people, instead of the apples or pumpkins, will use things like pureed prunes or prune juice. And when I say puree, you can go to the baby aisle and get the baby food versions of these, because baby food, for the most part, check the ingredients, is going to be only that fruit and water. And then using a syringe, a baby syringe, you can get that from any pharmacy. Just go to the pharmacist and ask for a baby syringe. Drip that on their nose, or if you can gently get it into their mouth and push some of that into their mouth, that'll usually flush them out and make them go to the bathroom. Your bearded dragon might just be bored of their food. Me and Lizard Guru did a couple of videos on this, so I will leave that here too. But basically, bearded dragons are pretty notorious for getting bored of eating the same thing every single day. So make sure that you are giving them a variety of food. If your staple is dubia roaches, that's perfect, but make sure that you're still throwing other things in there as well. And the same things with salads. Make sure you're not giving them the same thing non-stop. But if your bearded dragon completely stops eating the vegetables or bugs you are feeding them, just try to change up what you're giving them. That's a super quick and easy thing to try, just to see if maybe that's the issue. Brumation. Most bearded dragons are going to go through brumation. Brumation is basically reptiles' form of hibernation. It's just a short period of them sleeping during cold weather. So if the temperatures in your area have dropped, don't panic when they slowly stop eating food, because they will probably be brumating as long as they are an adult. Babies generally don't brumate because they need to spend that time eating and growing as much as they possibly can. So if you notice that it is getting cold and your bearded dragon is slowly stopping eating, again, I suggest taking a fecal sample into a vet to get them parasite tested before they go into brumation, because a bearded dragon going into brumation with parasites could be fatal. The last one is them being gravid. If you have an adult female bearded dragon, they may have infertile eggs, even if they have never encountered a male bearded dragon in their life. Things to look for with this is, number one, them being a mature bearded dragon. So we're looking at least a year old. We're also going to look for glass surfing and digging is a big one. So if you notice your female bearded dragon or male bearded dragon, because sometimes we get the two confused, is digging non-stop, then that bearded dragon would probably benefit from you putting a dig box in their tank. Bearded dragons have to have dig boxes to lay those eggs, or they could become egg bound and have to have surgery. This is a very stressful time for a bearded dragon. So if you notice that they stop eating, but they are gaining weight and they are looking bigger and bigger and digging everywhere, then that is cause for action. That is cause for you to put a dig box in that tank for them. It's probably normal during this time for them to stop eating, especially as we get close to egg laying time, because it is so stressful. But just make sure that as soon as they lay those eggs, you are dusting all of their bugs and all of their salads with calcium supplements, because those eggs would have leached so much calcium away from them. And that's it. That is 10 reasons why your bearded dragon might not be eating. Like I said, I get asked about this nonstop, so I just wanted to put it all in a video so that when people have questions, I can just direct them here. I really hope that this was helpful, and hopefully it alleviated some stress if you are a new Beardie owner and you are super stressed out, because I know that feeling. Hopefully it helped you out some. If you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and now some Wednesdays. This week's Instagram shout out is for Sylvia Ryzak for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a whole bunch of my stuff. Thank you so much for that. And this week's subscriber shout out goes to Tarantula Arc for being super supportive. I actually was on her channel not too long ago in a gamer thing that she did, which was super awesome. So thank you guys both so much. You are the bee's knees. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. Done. Like I've mentioned in the last few videos, other than that, again, actually, or super twitchy, flighty. So, again, Maui, Sam. Some animals like Zaz. Just try to change it up. I let a moth in here. And then